Hey YouTube, Coppersan here. Remember MapleStory 2? That game launched in the West in October 2018 and was closed again a little less than 2 years later in May 2020. And while our adventures in MapleStory 2 were kinda short-lived in the West, the game is actually still live in China and Korea. And in this video we're playing the Korean version and we're checking in on how the game is doing. How's the game population, are there any updates, and maybe is there a chance of MapleStory 2 returning to the West? Heading back into MapleStory 2 is kinda nostalgic, which is funny in a way, since the game didn't even last that long in the West. I still remember being extremely hyped for this game when it was first announced, and I still have fond memories of it, even if I didn't really play that much. I created my character and there aren't any new classes to check out. There was this one icon that I couldn't click, it was for the beginner class, but this class is part of a special burning event that already ended by the time I logged into MapleStory 2. There aren't any new customization features either for character creation from what I could tell, but man, this background music still holds up. The earlier part of the game is still exactly how I remembered it. You fight an undefeatable boss and later you go through some dungeons until you're dropped in the main town of the game. I was online around midnight on a Sunday, so I didn't expect to see like a massive amount of people. You know, people gotta go to work on Monday, but I counted about 15 people that were actually online while I was playing for about 2 hours. This is in channel 1 and there's only one server, so it already became pretty clear that this game did not manage to hold its player base, even in Korea. In the West, MapleStory 2 lost most of their player base rapidly due to various factors. The endgame was limited and just not all that exciting. It could be reached very fast as well, and then there was just nothing to do. There also was less replay value and you had to go through the entire story over and over to get more characters to level 50, which was very boring and repetitive. Once it became clear that there were a lot of design flaws, the interest in the game tanked in a matter of months and it just never recovered afterwards. From systems lowering your damage no matter how much you upgrade, I think it was called Fair Fight, and a limit to how many dungeons you could run every day and every week, there were a lot of issues with the endgame gear progression that the game just couldn't change in time, and while some changes were made, they simply just came too late. One fun thing that still is there are those mini games that pop up every now and then, and this is also where I found most players. Those were actually really fun in my opinion, and they still are even with the massive delay that I'm having playing MapleStory 2 Korea from the Netherlands. While leveling and the endgame was repetitive, MapleStory 2 did shine with a lot of customization and player-generated content, and that is still going strong. From building your own house to decorating banners in cities and even designing and selling your own character clothing, almost every one that I did see looked unique, and that was definitely one of the game's strengths. Character progression is still the same as well. I played up until level 20 and the main questline was the fastest way to level up, with the occasional story dungeon and boss fight. Dungeons were a big part of the endgame content, which had to be repeated for new gear and upgrade materials, but those were limited in how many you could do every day and every week. However, there also were other activities like fishing or harvesting or making music that would also generate EXP for your character to level up. Looking at the website, MapleStory 2 is still getting updated at least once a month with minor patches. Those usually include balance changes and events. For example, in the February update, the mage class had some damage percentages changed on their skills, and that was literally the entire update, okay? There was also a relatively bigger update with a new armor set that was released back in January, but still most content and events are recycled and nothing substantially new has been added in the game for a long time. No new classes, no new job advancements, no new areas, not much really. I really wonder how big the team that is still working on this game actually is, because it doesn't feel like it's very big. Looking at the world map, there does seem to be more content than what we had in the Western version, but then again we also were quite behind in content compared to the Korean version that was already live for a couple of years before MapleStory 2 actually came to the West. I really wonder if that Battle Royale mode is still in the game. Playing through the game again, I was actually quite enjoying myself at the start, but after I took off my nostalgia glasses, I just found myself walking from place to place, accepting quests and going through the same motions over and over, and that was really putting me off after just 2 hours of playing. It is interesting that Nexon didn't try to overhaul the game, similar to when they did the restart update for this game, which had some major overhauls to some systems. I think that was released like a few years after launch. It's not like there are a lot of people playing anyway, so it wouldn't hurt to try, I think, to just go make some big changes and see if that works. MapleStory 2 was a flawed but very unique game that had moments of greatness, but those just didn't outweigh all the negatives. Making an MMO is expensive, and if they fail as hard as MapleStory 2 did, it becomes even harder to secure enough funding to try again. I guess this is also the reason why Nexon stopped investing into a new MapleStory title and is trying to create new IPs instead of trying to recreate the success of MapleStory 1 with a new PC MMO. So I wouldn't expect a MapleStory 3 anytime soon, unless Nexon gets really desperate. So yes, MapleStory 2 is still around in Korea and China. I didn't check the Chinese version myself because, you know, the Great Firewall of China is blocking me from that. But in Korea the game is still alive, barely. It seems to be run by a skeleton crew and not much really is happening. Also the player base has completely dried out, which is unfortunate because I do believe that MapleStory 2 did have a lot of potential. Unfortunately the game just didn't make it. Did you play MapleStory 2 yourself? And if you did, do you still miss the game? Let me know in the comments. And that was all for today. As always, many thanks to our members for making these videos possible. Thanks to Niels the Coninck, Raar, maar waar, Sebastian, Hanoy, FLX, Ryalias, Terry Kim, Vareese, Cody Mora, Wiley, Historycanon, BackSpaceOTI, Saffronyx, Lorenzo, BG Extremes, Anwar NHI, Frank Bouquit, Ziggy Deer, Flidiot, Beamer WT, Knifesu, Chen125, Cloudfix, Gusus Rodriguez, Froggy, Gleason, Brendon Cam, Vira, Trevor, Michael Machaka, Ratius, Justin Vale, Silvio Nato, Stevie Zhang, Afterlord _MS, Heopan, ceemak, Striker Elk, Martin Panzik, Niu, Tide1 Pun, Victor Sundstrom, Radicals the Alien, Riser Aryu, Gummy Bullet, Lucky Beats, Lovebird, Ref Soli, Sir Tito 655, Mathias Simonsson, Mr. Narc, Galando Balavia, I'm disappointed, my name is Coppersan and I'm super cute XOXO, PC Game Life, Yo Mama, Dante Victory, Stanislaus Kasumo Vegas, level 241, Paladin Reboot, Caveman, oh yeah, Crazy Ladette and The Passenger. Thank you all so much for watching, stay safe and happy mapling!